Hello everybody. I'd like to welcome you to Make Art Mondays, which is sponsored by NIAM and the Arts Council of the Southern Finger Lakes. My name is Gail Lewis and I'm going to show you today how to make a paper plate flower by weaving. So first, let's look at all the things that are in your art kit. First of all, we have the written directions here, which of course you can refer to if you need them. We have a paper plate, which has lots of dots on it, and we'll see why later. We have a long piece of green string, and then we have 3 shorter colored strings. Now, also, to do this project, you're going to need a pair of scissors and a little bit of tape. But those are not included in the kit. Okay, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do is take this plate, which has all the dots, and there's also a little hole in the middle. Now, what we want to do is we want to make this plate in the shape of a flower and the petals. So there are 11 dots on here because we need 11 flower petals. It has to be an odd number in order to weave it properly. So I put the dots on there to help you out. If you ever want to make one by yourself, you can do 9 petals or 7 or 13 or 23. Just has to be an odd number of petals. So to make the petals now, we're going to cut from the outside of the plate into the dot. Now I'm going to make my petals on this plate a little bit rounded. So from the outside, which is, you start your cut between 2 of the dots. From the outside into the dot. And like I said, I'm making my cut a little bit rounded. Then we go to the next 2 dots. And we're going to cut halfway between, from the outside of the plate into the dot. And here's where your first scrap comes out. Oh, I didn't cut it quite as far enough. And then we go this way. And you can do the shape of these petals any way you want. I'll show you some different ones in a minute. So we got that petal. We have 2 petals now. We're going to go to the next set of 2 dots. Halfway between them, we cut from the outside of the plate right to the dot. And there's another scrap. From the outside of the plate into the dot. Okay, easy enough. Next 2 dots, I'll show you one more time. I'm making a rounded cut for this one. Start from the outside and cut into the dot to make your petals. Okay, I'm going to put this one aside, and while you're cutting the rest of yours, I'll show you some other petals that you could do. There's here's one that I cut with a very straight line so that it, it might make you think of a sunflower or something. Now, you could also, after you cut them, you can also change the shapes of the petals. Maybe you want to make them a little smaller, so you could round them out like that. Or you could make them fancy like that. Or you could cut a crazy silly one. Starting on the outside, you could make a wavy, silly kind of leaf pattern. A wavy pattern. So there's lots of different ways to do these flower petals. You figure out how you want to do it and make your flower petals however you would like. Okay? So now if you're still working on it, you can always pause the video because I'm going to move on now and show you what the next step is. Here is my completed flower. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip this over to the back side. And I'm going to take my green string, get the end of it, and I'm going to tape it to this plate temporarily. I'm going to put it down here. Just a little piece of tape to hold that down there. We will be untaping it on one of the steps. Now I flip it back over, and I want to make the lines that we are going to weave around. The way I do that, now you can't go exactly across, because remember I told you we have an odd number. So we're going to go kind of across, wrap the string around the bottom, and kind of go across to another one, and across to another one, wrap it around into another petal, and try to go straight across. It won't be exactly straight because of the odd petals. And I just keep wrapping around and around. I hope you can see this. Around and around. And my last one is on top. So what we're going to do is, there's that hole there. We're going to push that through to the back. Now I happen to have a little screwdriver here, and I'm going to use that. You can use a pencil point, or if you have sharp fingernails or a scissor, and just push that through the hole. Good. And then flip it over and pull it through. There we go. So now we have the two ends. We have one that is taped and one coming out of the hole. Now, because of this, all these lines crisscrossing each other and intersecting are kind of pushed to the side because of the odd number of petals. I'm going to take this end and I'm going to put it on the other side of all of these crossovers here. I'll put it under all of those. There it goes. It's going under. And that's going to help me pull them toward the middle a little, just so it's more centered. And then we're going to take the other string that we taped down, and I'm going to tie those two together. And you can see how that moves this crossing point over to the side a little bit. Now you don't have to tie these if you have trouble tying. You can also just tape them both to the back. I kind of like taping them. And then I'm going to use my scissor to trim that off. Okay, now I flip it back over to the front side. And there we have, these are the strings that you're going to weave on. So, you get to pick one of your colors. I'm going to start with this blue. All right, this is what we're going to weave with. So again, I'm going to put the end of this blue string under all of the green strings right there. You see how I went under all of them? And I'm going to tie that on. And I'm going to try and pull all of those strings kind of to the middle of the plate. There we go. You just really need one knot. I'm going to trim the short end. And what I do is I leave about 1 inch because I'm going to tuck that underneath all of the weaving that I do. Okay, now comes the fun part. How do we weave this? If you've ever done any weaving, you know you have your string that you weave with. It's the blue one. And we're going to weave around the green strings. And it's really very simple. So we're going to start by going under one string. And then we go over the next string. And then we go under the next one and over the next one. So when I did it with my granddaughter, she's 5, she thought it was better for her to think about going over. She would go under, skip one, and go under. That was easier for her to understand. So if that makes more sense to you, you can do it that way too. Now what we have to do is, I went over and under a lot. So what we have to do now is pull it tight. So we want, this is too much loose string. We want to pull it tight. There we go. And now you can see how we're going around all of those crisscrossed green strings. You can also see that our extra end that we cut, I told you to leave about 1 inch, is staying nicely underneath our weaving. All right, so now you pulled it tight. It's looking good. You just keep going. Skip one, go under, over and under, over and under. However it helps you to do it. Or you could just say skip one and go under. And every now and then, pull it tight so you don't have this extra thread, extra yarn there. Oops, that one got stuck on the leaf. Okay, now this part of it is also your choice. If you just want a little bit of blue on there, you can cut it now and end it. But if you want to keep going with this color, just keep going with this color. We're making the center of the flower. We're skipping and going under and skipping and going under. And that's basically how you do this. I'm going to do maybe 1 or 2 times around. And then I will show you how to pick another color, which is very simple to do, really. So I skip one. Now when you're doing this, you will see that each string, each time you go around, whoops, I got stuck on my leaf again. Make sure you unhook that if that happens to you. Each time you go around, you'll see, if you look very closely, I don't know how close I can get here, but if you look very closely, each row is different on each green string. So this row it went over, and this row it went under, and this row it went over. And that's how weaving works. This is just one pattern for weaving. I'm sure there are many, many different patterns. As you can tell, if you've seen a knitted blanket or a knitted or woven, just any cloth or fabric that's woven, it can have a different way of doing it. But we are doing under one, over another, under one, over another. And that makes that pattern that if you look really closely, you can see the pattern on each string. And it is looking beautiful. You can also see how that end that I cut off is getting hidden by all of the weaving. Okay, so now just so that I can show you what's next, so now you can continue to finish on your own, I'm going to finish with my blue. So I'm going to cut it off there. And I'm going to take the pink now. And I'm just going to tie those two together. You can tie it however you want to. It's got to be a tight knot, though. You can do 2 of the knots. It's called a square knot that you do when you tie your shoe. You need to make those a little longer. Or there's an overhand knot you can do. Or if you need to, just ask a grown-up. The other thing is that you don't have to use all 3 pieces of yarn. You can just keep going with one color. Okay, so I got my knot tied. And now I'm going to cut those as short as I feel safe doing. It doesn't matter if they're too long because, again, this is going to go right under the weaving. When we're all done, you can tuck it right under there. And then I'm just going to continue going over and under, skip one and under, and keep pulling it tight. Whoops, we're going to get stuck on the leaves again. Here we go. And you just keep doing this until you've got the center looking as big as you like it. Or, like I said, any color combination. So here let me just go a little bit further on this. Under and over and under. Just to show you. So when you get this knot there, either now or when you're all done, you can just tuck these end ties under so they don't show as much. Okay, so now I'm starting with the pink. I finished the blue and I'm starting with the pink. Same thing, over and under, over and under. Okay, everybody have the idea? I hope so. This is really simple to do. And if you make little mistakes, that's okay too. You can take the weaving out or you can just keep going because it's going to stay there with all these strings. All right. So I kind of like the way this looks with just the pink. Just one row of pink. I kind of like the way that looks. What do you think? Oh, I keep getting stuck on those leaves. Okay, so if I want, I could end it there. And I basically end it by, I'm going to end this one just so I can show you. I cut it, and then I can tuck this right under the part we wove. We wove. There we go. So there's one. And you can do many types of flowers. I have a couple that I made here. I made this one with a big fat center. And you notice that it's colored in. So with this one, I got my markers. And I made it orange. And I made a pale orange in the middle. These have the kind of the rounded leaves that the one I was working on had. And then I have this one too that my granddaughter made, that I was telling you about my granddaughter. She made pointy leaves. Some of them have little flat tops. And she used pink as her favorite color, so she only wanted to do pink in the middle. And then she took watercolors and made rainbow petals. So you can also use any crayons you have or anything to make these flowers. So I wish you a lot of luck with this. And thank you very much for joining me. And you have a wonderful spring day. Bye-bye.